Hello, everyone. We're back again with Mrs. Betsy Irabor. Thank you very much, Ma, for choosing to be with us, be with Leap Africa today. It's been an interesting conversation, just listening to you share your insights, and how you've grown over time. So we will begin with your challenges. What are the challenges you've experienced, the difficulties starting the Genevieve Magazine as a brand? So what are the challenges you've experienced over time?
I think when we started, one of the challenges would be the fact that to get content, because most of the luxury brands industry, most of them were not activated. We didn't have most luxury brands as we do now. So it was very difficult to get advertising, the type of advertising that we needed for the magazine. And that was a challenge, building content that that would draw people to the magazine. That was an initial one, especially the fashion pages. The fashion industry was emerging, and we had a few of them to work with. So getting content that people could relate to was a struggle. And then I think the biggest shock was realizing that there wasn't any structure regarding the distribution of magazines. Unlike in other countries where you have your magazines at the checkouts, we had to depend on agents and vendors on the street. And there was a lot of politicking. We didn't realize how much powerful they were and how they could constitute themselves into a force that could mar your efforts. Most times they will take magazines and then there will be no funds. Funds won't come back to us, and it was difficult initially dealing with them because we lost a lot of money and all that. So the process of distribution was a major challenge. Getting the magazines to outstation, out of Lagos, and getting the vendors to fund getting them to bring back the funds, the sales. It was very, very difficult initially, but we got over that. There were so many other challenges, and when we started, of course, we didn't have high technology as we do now. So it was difficult sourcing for materials, and everything was done manually as it were. Yeah. But I think those were some of the challenges, and then getting the workforce that would also drive the vision. Those were initial challenges, but then we rose above them, and I would say it's been a good journey so far.
Okay. So for someone who's just starting out and obviously has to go through these challenges that are peculiar to their business, what's your advice? How were you able to deal with this, with all these issues that you had, to deal with? What was your strongest advice to any young entrepreneur in the market?
I think if anyone wants to come into the business of publishing now, it would be, my word to them would be that they should have as much presence online as they would offline, because we have 13 years of experience. We built a brand, we built a strong following, and people are still interested in picking up a copy of Genevieve.
Yes.
But for a newcomer in the industry, unless you absolutely have a niche market, you have something really strong, I think it will be a difficult terrain. I would say anyone coming in now should target working offline, more of digital rather than hard copy. As I said, we are transitioning gradually. And because we built a strong brand over the years, we still have people reading and picking up a copy every month. What we've done differently in order not to be held ransom by vendors and agents is that we now have outlets at various spas, various supermarkets. So you would find Genevieve in some of these places. So we're working with other partners who have spas, who have eateries and supermarkets to display our magazine. So in a way, we're trying to break the monopoly, the power that the vendors and agents have had over us for years. And for a newcomer into that business is going to be a struggle, because the reason we're able to win the fight is because we've been here for long, and they want our magazine because they know the readers want to read Genevieve. But those are some of the problems. And then it's very, very important that a newcomer into this industry does her numbers. Publishing is really capital intense. And the mistake a lot of people make is that, oh, I have money for 3-4 editions and I'll get money from advertising. It doesn't work like that, because you don't break even for years. And that's why many magazines come and then tomorrow they're gone. So those are some of the challenges in the industry. And for those I mentor, I let them realize that the glamorous part they see is just publishing exciting. So they have to have be passionate about it. They have to have a market, people who want to read what they're offering, because the industry is saturated. But then I always say there's room for one more fantastic idea.
Okay. Okay. All right, Ma. So I know you mentioned, you spoke a little about the reading culture in Nigeria, and how people are reading more of the materials because it's relevant to what they, to their lives, because it's interesting enough, to want to come back for more information. So I don't know if you want to share more about the reading culture, especially in the educational system in Nigeria. How do you think that you're promoting, you're encouraging more people to read more? Because, when you read more, you're more empowered. You can start a conversation about anything. You have information at the tip of your fingers, So what are your thoughts on the reading culture in Nigeria?
When we were in school, literature was a big part of our curricula, and we didn't have a choice. We were made to read about African authors, and reading was widely encouraged. But this is a generation that wants information on the go, and they really do not have time to pick up a book and read, especially books like motivational books. I read a lot of motivational books, and people want to read online. For me, I'm very traditional. I want to hold my book, and when I'm in bed, I want to read. I want to read my book, and so I think it really goes back to the quality of education that people are exposed to. Are people still made to read in school? Do people still have, I don't know what the state of literature is in school now, just as the same way there was this confusion about whether history was taken away from the curriculum. But I think it all starts from the primary school. Children should be made to read. Children should be conditioned in such a way that reading becomes a lifestyle, becomes something they love to do. So I think you can't kill the reading culture.
Yes.
And I think there's more room, there are new conversations starting every day, and new narratives. And I think the authors are pushing the boundaries. And I pick up a lot of books, I read. And while we may say that the reading culture has dwindled, I think people will always pick up a very, very interesting book. People will pick up Chimamanda's book. Every time she's releasing a new book, people pick up a copy. So that shows that, there is room for it. People want to read. And I think, we're getting more dramatical reads, we're getting more interesting reads from authors every day. I have a book called Morning Dew. It's just nuggets on inspiration, my journey to finding myself, finding my voice, finding who I am, and being comfortable in myself. And I do have Morning Dew readings where we call people and we read. We did that in the University of Lagos. We had the Morning Dew reading session, and people were really basically touched and wanted to buy the books. They did buy the books. So I think also we need to take reading to the schools and make sure that from when children are young, that they're socially conditioned to read.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that they're socially conditioned to read. Okay, Ojima?
Yeah. Okay, I've just been enjoying the conversation since. Okay, with the transition of traditional media into electronic media, we know this is going to really have a very negative effect when it comes to reading. So now, how do we control this? Because you just said that Genevieve is gradually going into the digital space. So are you trying to say that when it finally goes there, Genevieve and hard copy will not exist again? Because some people might want to have a copy of Genevieve in their shelves, and their kids want to maybe pick and then read. So if the transition happens, what then happens to the hard copy of Genevieve? Will it just finally die? Because I know as it is now, the print media is slowly dying. So how do we revive it?
It's something that's really, really has been very challenging. It's been a challenging decision to take. But then I have to be very realistic with myself, and I'm a businesswoman. Genevieve is a labor of love, but then I can't take a labor of love to the markets to purchase things. And advertising has become a big challenge because most advertisers do not have media budgets for offline. It's been drastically reduced. So we still get some adverts now because of the goodwill we've built and the brand that we have. But I see a situation where magazines, offline magazines, will no longer get advertising from media buyers because most of them are also creating their platforms. Most of those who used to advertise with us have their own television online, they have their own radio online, they have their corporate Instagram platforms. So the need to advertise in hard copy is just based on tradition that we want our adverts to be in Genevieve, but most of the focus is online. The question is, am I going to rest Genevieve any day soon? I said to my team that 2017 would be a deciding factor for me whether I'm going to hold on to the hard copy. I've sampled a few opinions, and people have said to me, "Oh, Auntie Betty, you can't rest Genevieve. I grew up on Genevieve." But the thing is, you have to be realistic with the times. You have to move with the times. You can't be sentimental about it. So if I do not have advertising and I'm not making enough sales to ensure that Genevieve stays afloat, then I'll have to take a drastic decision and transition fully online. But as I said, we've already started put things in place and we're testing waters to see how it is. I think we're already developed an app for the online content. So I would say that it would hurt me to put Genevieve to rest, and that people will wake up and know that this month there won't be a hard copy. But then I am very, very optimistic that the economy would improve. And when the economy will improve, maybe the purchasing power, people will be able to part with 1,000 naira to pick up a copy of Genevieve. So fingers crossed. We may fully, we may still be here, but I'm being optimistic and at the same time realistic. It all depends on how things unfold. But right now, one thing I know for sure is when you look at what you need, when you look at the line of your needs, is magazine a priority for you, especially with this condition, with this economy? Yes, most people subscribe to us, but for some, they've had to let go because people say to me, oh, Auntie Betty, I can no longer afford Genevieve, but that's the reality. You have to be first and foremost a business woman. Whether you're doing it for love, you're doing it for passion, you also need an income. You need some money to come back into the business. So those are the factors.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you. So we understand that Genevieve, you have a foundation called the Genevieve Pink Ball Foundation. So what inspired it?
Sorry?
We understand that you have a foundation. That's the Genevieve Pink Ball Foundation. So what inspired it?
I believe that to whom much is given, much is expected. When I started Genevieve, I didn't realize it was going to be this successful. I started at 45 and I just thought, let me just do this magazine and fulfill all righteousness. I've always loved magazines. I thought maybe I would have a staying power. Maybe I'll be relevant for 2 years. I didn't realize that we would have this staying power, that we will still be relevant, we'll still be in reckoning so many years after. So I thought, what could I give back to the women who have kept us in business, the women who pick up every copy of the magazine every month? And I thought, people were very, very ignorant about the devastations cancer was causing. And the good thing is, with cancer, early detection makes a lot of difference, rather than when the cancer has progressed into the more advanced stages. So we decided to use our platform to come up with a CSR that was focused on early detection of any kind of cancer. And we decided that, if we had seminars and we had conferences on breast cancer, it wouldn't excite the women as much as if we had a ball. You have a strong message, but you couch it under fashion, under fun, under entertainment. And we came up with a ping ball, and it really worked. Because the first ping ball, we had about 1,000 people in the house. There was a documentary, and the feedback I got was that people actually detected lumps from just learning from the documentary. And we felt that all our effort wasn't in vain, even though people criticized us and said it was just a party. Well, it was a party with a purpose, with a message. And that's how we started the conversation on breast cancer awareness. Now the narrative, everybody has caught on, women are more breast aware. And it's a thing of joy for me now to see so many NGOs come up and creating awareness. But we have also moved further. We're now treating patients, because I realized that when the women have found the lump, then what? What do they do? There's nowhere to go. So we decided that we would take on treatment, which is very expensive. We started the 100 patient challenge, trying to raise a lot of money. We didn't make as much, but we're treating patients as we go. And the blessings from it, especially the very, very indigent folks who can afford even to have a mammogram test. So we're happy at how far we've come, and we're not even started yet.
Thank you very much for that.
All right. So, well, just listening to that, I can tell that you've been very innovative about the foundation, being able to put a ball together for something that is very serious, cancer. So I think that's a very innovative way of approaching a problem. So now we have a fellowship program called the Social Innovators Awards Program and Awards, and it runs for a year. And what we do is we're encouraging young social entrepreneurs, to build sustainable businesses. So we do a training for a 1-year period, and then we graduate them at the end of the year and then induct new fellows. So what are your thoughts on social entrepreneurship, using the Paintball Foundation as a learning curve for you, and opening that door of creating initiatives that are helping communities, that are changing lives, that are adding value to the community, to other people's lives and society as a whole?
Yes, I think it's very laudable that we're having more social entrepreneurs on board who have hangouts, who have timeouts to coach young entrepreneurs. It's very important that, when we have risen in our career, we should also try and lend a hand to those who really cannot afford. So when we share knowledge with other people through CSR programs, I think it's very laudable. And the more information we share with people, the more we are able to close the gap, to bridge the gap on the have and the have nots, especially women, who most times are the ones who bear the brunt. So I think it's a good idea, for us to have CSR programs where we impact the lives of other people. I think it comes with a lot of blessings at the end of the day.
It does. Okay, so on a final note, would you like to share something with us on a final note? I think I don't I don't know if you want to say something about the women, female entrepreneurs. If you have any thoughts to female entrepreneurs in the market, you have done very well in your business, in your field. So what's your advice to young women? Starting out a business. What would you tell them?
I think first and foremost, you should not allow stereotypes to define you. When I was starting Genevieve, I was told that publishing wasn't for women. I looked back and I realized that indeed there were very female publishers. It's a very difficult terrain, but then if I didn't take that to heart. I knew what my vision was, and I knew it was going to take a lot of joy, a lot of effort. I did not allow myself to be discouraged by the fact that I was starting at 45 and the fact that there were not many female publishers. It kind of made me even more stubborn, more determined to be one in the statistics of the women who dared. So I would advise young entrepreneurs not to think that there are some territories they cannot conquer. No one needs you but yourself. Do not accept other people's definition of what you can do, or people to define boundaries and say, this is for men, this is for women. I do not think that anyone should accept that. You have a dream, a burning vision, and you can. Definitely go for it. But I think also I would like to advise entrepreneurs that they shouldn't really, it shouldn't always be about the millions. It shouldn't be, because most people start and then a year later or 2 years later, they're quitting because what they expected in terms of cash flow, revenue didn't come. But a good business takes time to grow. So you must allow your business to grow. Nurture it with passion. Stay focused to the vision and get a mentor. Get people who are already in the field where you want to go into. And that helps because every day, sometimes there are days when you feel you cannot go on. But when you have a mentor and then you know that everything, people should be patient. They should be passionate about what they do, and they should give their full attention to it. Being an entrepreneur requires a lot of hard work. So be prepared is to come. No more difficult. And no matter things, no matter how it looks, just go working at it, keep improving to develop more. And then you read about people who have already walked the walk that you're about to walk, and how they were able to achieve. When they need to take a look within. Am I doing the right thing? Am I in the wrong? You know, when you're happy about what you're doing, definitely you know you're right. So keep at it, keep at it, and keep going. Do not let yourself be discouraged. See, there are no boundaries that you have set for yourself.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Ma. It's been wonderful. Throughout the session, I am pushed to the wall now seeing you. And then when you started, I just feel like I need to do something as a lady. I don't have to stereotype myself. It's been wonderful invitation, and I don't know what else I have to say.
All right, so we've come to the end of today's edition of Career Corner Speaker Series. Mrs. Betty Irabor, thank you so much for joining me, for sharing with us. It's been a pleasure. It's been wonderful, and we know that you have so much information. So we will still like to connect with you in different ways, create publicity on social media about the kind of work that you do, and also, you know, use this video as a learning material for those who are in your space, in the publishing industry, so that they can pick up from you. Thank you so much. If you're listening, if you're watching, Leap Africa is on Instagram at Leap Africa. Betty Irabor, Mrs. Betty Irabor is also on Instagram at Betty Irabor. And the Genevieve Magazine at Betty at Genevieve Magazine. So all of us, we're all on social media, Twitter at Leap Africa, and can just and get more information about the work we do.
Thank you.
Mrs. Irabor, would you like to round off on anything? Would you like to share final words? Do you have anything you would like to add before we go?
I think I would just like to encourage everyone to aspire to make the world a better place than they found it. I think when we are in a position to help, we should not hesitate to help. All the talk about women being their own worst enemy, I think it's just sheer propaganda. Most of the people who have helped me along the way have been women. And I think it's very, very important that when we've been blessed, we should bless others. I mean, there was the analogy that someone shared with me was like, if you take the lift up, don't keep the lift up there, send it down so that others can also take the elevator and go up. So I think, you know, we should continue to let people know that it's just sheer propaganda when they say women are their own worst enemies. Some men are also their own worst enemies. It has nothing, being an enemy has nothing to do with gender. Anybody can be anybody's. So don't believe that. It's just something that some people started as a way of creating fiction amongst us. So we are not our own worst enemies. We are each other's helpers. We help one another. And that's how we can grow together, be strong together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, take care. All right.
Thank you very much, Ma.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.